Welcome to today's episode of the Psychedelic Mom podcast. I'm your host, Michaela Carlin, and thank you for being here and listening and being part of the Psychedelic Mom community. One of my goals on the Psychedelic Mom podcast is to create a space for people to come tell their incredible stories of healing and awakening. And today's episode is really about you being the medicine in your life. Do you believe you have the capacity within yourself to heal yourself physically? Well, today's guest, Stella Osorojos Eisenstein, is an intuitive body worker, but her new mission is to teach people how easy it is to heal physically. And she should know. She survived cancer and healed herself, as well as osteoporosis and autoimmune disease that affected her thyroid. She has a master's degree in acupuncture and oriental medicine. She then went on to study esoteric medicine and internal manual medicine. She's also an author. She wrote the book Star Sister: How I Changed My Name, Grew Wings, and Learned How to Live with Her Intuition. So today is a really interesting episode for me because I think the more that we have the power to heal within ourselves, the more we can live a harmonious life in balance. So I know for myself, back in my late 20s, I ended up with an autoimmune disease called Graves' disease. And it was really awful. My eyes got really bulgy. I got really skinny. And I had to tape my eyes closed at night because my eyes wouldn't close. And I had to wear these bright, like those sunglasses that like cover your entire face whenever there was sun, because Graves' disease affects your eyes. I was pretty desperate to learn how to heal because I was supposed to have this major eye surgery where you were going to have to open up these bones. I was like, are you kidding me? I came across Louise Hay's book, How to Heal Your Life, and I dove in deep. And if you've never read that book, definitely go out and read it. And what Louise Hay does is she does follow Chinese medicine, and she looks at the different areas of your body and the beliefs that are related to that, as well as possibly the emotions. And she basically gives you an affirmation to repeat to heal what is wrong in your body. I actually did, through meditation and this work, end up healing myself, and I never had to have this major operation, which was incredibly profound. And so what Stella does today is it's a little bit deeper than that, but it's as simple. And what I found really interesting about this conversation is Stella and I work very similarly. I work with my clients in finding and intuiting where their emotions live in their body. And usually I am really just following and intuiting what I see, but also teaching my clients to do the same thing, to go inside and bring their attention into their body and allow their body to speak. And usually there is a memory there, a lost child part, suppressed emotion. So Stella's approach is very similar. She has an intuitive ability to see what's going on in people's physical body, their tissues, their bones, and how to move it and how to allow the body to heal itself. So you're going to find out how this is done, and you're going to learn how to do this yourself. I invited Stella to do a little healing on me during the session. She teaches a class now on Resonant Attention to teach you these very tools to heal yourself. She really is so committed to turning the Western medical paradigm on its head, to put your healing in your hands. And on the Psychedelic Mom podcast, as you know, we're covering earth medicines and psychedelics, as well as the subtle plants. We had a conversation recently with someone who works with rose and blue lotus. And there's so many medicines that Earth has brought to us to really be able to be our own sovereign healers. So I hope you enjoy this episode today with Stella. One of the things that I'm really hoping to do on the Psychedelic Mom podcast, which really goes along with my own healing work as well as Stella's, is the first thing is to create a safe container. It's to create a place where everything is welcome, every emotion, every physical thing coming up in the body, the deepest, most visceral feelings and expressions of the human being, that welcome them all here. It's through that non-judgmental holding of space and welcoming everything, all aspects of life, where life itself starts to move through us physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and do what it knows how to do, which is to bring us back to our innate wholeness and original nature. So reach out. I'd love to know your story. If you have a profound insight from this episode, let me know. Welcome to the Psychedelic Mom podcast. I'm here today with Stella Osorojos Eisenstein. How are you today?
Fine, thanks. How are you? Yes.
I'm well. I actually interviewed Charles at some point, so it's so nice to have you here and get a completely other side of that couple dynamic.
Yeah, a lot of people actually say that I'm the grounded. I talk about what Charles does, but just from a grounded point of view.
What is resonant attention?
Yeah, so resonant attention is basically a culmination of the work that I've done over the years. I actually trained originally as an acupuncturist, and then I learned all these very cutting edge bodywork modalities in really just in an effort to figure out how the body heals, how I can serve my clients best. And I ended up really coming, especially through these just amazing cutting edge bodywork therapies, especially integrative manual therapy, which was developed by a woman called Sharon Giammatteo, where they were doing truly radical things just with attention and allowance. But there was no context for it. They didn't talk about how this was really quantum, like a quantum modality or, conscious based. They would tell you things like, oh yeah, where the mind goes, the chi flows, or, hold it in your mind while you work on it. But they weren't able to contextualize it for us. They just knew that it worked and they went with it and they taught it that way. And as a reporter, originally I was a reporter and a journalist, and I just couldn't let it go. I was like, what is happening here? This is crazy. This is absolutely paradigm busting that I can hold a picture of a virus or a bacteria or whatever in my mind while I'm working on somebody, and that will help clear that from the tissues. What is going on here? And so I really, just thinking about it over the years and working with it and talking to everybody that I could, I realized we really are working, even if we don't know it, all the time, that all healing boils down to a very simple equation that I splash across the front of my website, which is attention plus allowance equals miracle. That all healing, whether you're talking allopathy to, integrative manual therapy, it all boils down to giving something attention, witnessing, being really with somebody, listening, and then getting out of the way. In some cases, getting out of the way is simply, I don't know how this works. But what I teach when I teach resonant attention are ways to come into familiarity with that energetic attitude of allowance that seems to create a coherent field and really just brings miracles on.
Amazing.
So I teach resonant attention both as a principle of all healing and then almost as a sideline. My main work has been to work directly with people, but it's hopefully becoming more of a sideline as we get the word out, to use it as a modality where I teach people how to hold attention, how to find spots on the body, And yeah, so we're not actually doing very much. We're actually just getting out of the way and letting the body heal itself, augmenting the body's natural capacity to heal itself, hacking the parasympathetic nervous system, and really just letting the body use its own intelligence and go to town, and miracles just unfold.
Do you find that at first, the first thing you're doing, are you finding resistance, or is it really just you are meeting somebody on the table or in this kind of space? Are you bringing them into their body to feel where there's some issue and then just bringing full attention there? How does the actual process work?
So what I'll do is I'll use my intuition or touch and find a spot in the body where I think trauma has been lodged. So trauma gets stuck in the body when it occurs with too great an amount in too short a period of time for us to metabolize it. And so the body has ways of storing it so that it doesn't overload our system. So it gets stuck there. So I find those stuck places, and then sometimes we have to find the exact resonance for it. So people like to not just be pointed at, they like to be really seen and heard. So we sometimes have to be specific with the type of attention we bring. And then I use the very technical term for the next part, which is get out of the way. So getting out of the way, you're absolutely right, can be really hard. Allow technology. When we think we know that a spot on the body needs to heal, or we think we know we have to heal, then we actually can shut down the process. So allow technology is really, or get out of the way, is really just how can you absolutely trust in whatever the outcome might be? Because that will deliver the energetic attitude that seems to create this coherent field that seems to start, the body takes over. So it's kind of like you're just pointing at a space on the body and then leaning back a little bit, and the body gets the message that it can, it's being entrusted to do what it knows how to do best. And it will just swoop right in and do what it's already doing. It's already doing, your body's healing all the time. So all we're doing is just giving it a little bit more, a little bit more trust to go forth and do what it already knows how to do.
Does the person that you're working with have to feel the trust, or can you hold that with them? Or is that part of what you're doing, is you, through your energy field, making somebody so comfortable that they go into a space of allowance and trust?
This is the most brilliant thing, is that I teach people how to do this to themselves. So, and it can sometimes take about 2 seconds. Literally, I say, okay, put your hands on your body there, and then sit behind yourself, or activate your peripheral vision, and the body will just take over and do this. So it is not difficult. That said, having somebody that knows how to do it, it's like being entrained in a really intimate way. And so it can really help to have another person there and, just kind of showing you the ropes. Absolutely. But, or like if you join a group healing session, you can, the field will almost hold you there. So when I was learning how to do body work, I would go to my teachers and I would get a body work session with them, and I would learn. I would learn just from feeling what they were doing. And it's the same, we help each other. But that said, the core of what I teach is so simple that I've seen people pick it up in literally 2 seconds.
So what was your path? I know you actually have healed yourself from scoliosis. You had breast cancer and autoimmune disease through the thyroid. Was this part of your healing path, or is this what led you here? How did you get here on this path?
I had scoliosis from 16, and then autoimmune disease in my early 20s, and crippling back pain. And so I went into acupuncture really needing help and support, and it's a beautiful medicine. I love it. I loved learning it. It only got me so far. And then I And I still was searching. And so that's how I found orthobionomy. Then I found depth hypnosis. Then I found integrative manual therapy. And I guess it wasn't until, so then I had a baby kind of late in life. I didn't have him until I was 41. And when he was about 3 years old, I had breast cancer recur. So I'd had it, a little bit of it once before when I was before I was pregnant. And then after I stopped nursing, it came back. And so I had developed all these elaborate, involved techniques for healing myself that, I'd been studying healing for 15 years by that point. But when I was sick with breast cancer, I could not get my tricks to work anymore. I just lay there in bed. I put my hands on my body and I couldn't get anything to process. And I really had to sit and think, why? And I realized that I was really in my own way, that I was pretty certain that it would be terrible to leave a 3-year-old, to die when my son was only 3 years old. And so I was just so nervous and in so much fear around, the necessity to heal that I felt was absolutely obvious, that nothing could happen. And so it was a great opportunity to really go inward and dive deep and figure out, okay, what's in the way here? And it was just fear, I spent weeks in bed just weeding through every little bit of fear, where would he go? If he went with this person, what would happen? Would it be okay? Like, what is the nature of this place? Like, just everything. It was really just everything.
All those esoteric questions.
Yep.
And then just were you in the process
death in the face.
Right.
Yeah.
And were you feeling, when you say fear, were you feeling like the visceral response of these experiences in your body, like fear, or was fear kind of like in the mind at that point?
Yeah, I mean, my general practice is to whenever anything is wrong is just to figure out where it's happening in my body and go be with it and listen deeply and, let it come out in its own time, be gentle with myself. So it was a process of that for weeks of just listening deeply, figuring out what was hurting, where, why, pulling it out and looking at it, letting it pass through me, letting it go. And eventually I got to this place where I realized, you know what? I have no idea what the universe has in store for me. I don't know what the best outcome is. As a matter of fact, maybe Carrie needs to be this in life, and me being dead is the exact doorway to get him there. Like I literally have no idea. And once I got to that place of, okay, I actually don't know what the best outcome is, that allowed me to just give it up, and relax back into trust and just say, yeah, of course, my preference is to be here with him. But if that's not in his best interest, then I'm just in your hands, like whatever it should be. And I'm telling you, 20 minutes later, so I've got my hands on my body, I'm processing my liver, which was quite stuck. And 20 minutes after actually getting into an allow posture, my liver kicked back into place and everything turned around and I started healing again. And it was really a beautiful and telling example of what allow actually is, right? It's not healing, like in order to get to the place where you can be really truly in allow technology or truly in this place of trust, you have to put it all on the table. And that just was really illuminating for me to realize what I was really doing. Because I had gone through this process with clients on the table. Like, I want them to get better, but I don't know what their best outcome is. So then I can trust. But when it was me and it was pertinent to my child, that was a lot harder.
Those are the deepest emotions
and so
as a mother
really,
with a child who's dealing with cancer and doesn't know. And then to go through, as you said, like to stay with fear and see what it had to teach you. And ultimately, it sounds like what fear kept teaching you as you went into each question is I don't know, but I'm willing to trust, which kind of reminds me of that, you're healed by your belief. And that maybe the belief that you were coming to was just trusting in something greater than yourself to have a deeper wisdom to what was needed. That's quite
Yeah,
surrendering.
and yeah, so surrendering and I think coming back into alignment with what is.
What is?
Coming
Yes.
truly into alignment with what is. Being part of the great mystery, not separate from it. That's a psychedelic link right there, right? Like, I think my biggest teacher in terms of like what is there, what is truly there, have been psychedelics. Like touching into like doing like a mushroom journey and starting to perceive how radically changing the universe is all the time, and having to be okay with it. And then, of course, the journey, into my body, confronting death, was also having to come into a deep intimacy with what is and what's arising all the time, and change is happening all the time, and it's okay. And we're going to have this experience and then be subsumed, back into the earth, and it's going to happen over and over, and it's fine. It's fine. I don't know what my purpose here is. I don't know
Right.
what Carrie's path is, Yeah, so kind of like that beautiful just flow, being in flow with what is.
So did you just kind of always have that, or did you go through a process of healing, layers of trauma and deeper understandings of self to get to such a place of deep surrender? Because to me, it almost is like there's some heavy stuff to lift there before you get to where you are, but maybe not.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. That actually the cancer was almost a capstone to a very deep curriculum in healing that I had really been put through. I was not a well child. I was sick from, I'd been given antibiotics, I'd been given vaccines as a kid. And, by the time I was in my 20s, like I said, I was a mess. I mean, I was in pain, constant pain, almost always sick. I was sick from November through February every year. I mean, I wasn't a well child. And so when I started healing, when I went to acupuncture school, I had to transmute all these, some of it was detoxing, some of it was anger releasing, some of it was, there was just there were so many layers of healing that I had to do so that I could paradoxically get well enough to clear the cancer, because I don't see cancer as this great evil that visits you for no good reason. I think in my case, and this is a fascinating story too, but the first time I had cancer, I was actually the wellest I had ever been. I had this like much deeper reserve of wellness in my body than I'd ever had before. And so then to be facing, to like my breast, like exudate and puckering and what's going on here. And
Right.
had just met Sharon Giammatteo, the woman who taught me integrative manual therapy. And I went to her clinic and she came running out from the back room. These are the kinds of experiences that were going on in my life at the time that were just like paradigm busting. She came
Right.
running out from the back room saying like, you have to do left breast to all process centers. And I was like, what is this woman talking about? And there was nothing wrong with my breast at the time.
Right.
And so I did it. I went home and I held one hand on my breast and then one hand every other place. And 2 weeks into that, I had just moved in with my husband, so my work wasn't set up yet, and didn't have anything else to do, so I just did this. And about 2 weeks in, I had a dream that we were in the Civil War, and he died. He was a soldier who died. I had been a nurse, and then I shot myself in the left breast, in the place where the cancer came out. And who knows? It's a dream. But when I went to the bathroom, Sharon had said, there's a thickening in your uterine lining, and you're not going to get pregnant again if you don't, because the cancer appeared originally after a miscarriage. And I went to the bathroom after I woke up from that dream, and this gigantic layer of uterine lining slips out into the bowl, quite astonishingly.
Whoa.
So, yeah. And then the puckering and the exudate. And I went back in to see Sharon, and I was like, what's happening here? I mean, I did all this processing, and then I had this dream, and I had this revelation that maybe some of it is about, maybe suiciding in a past life, who knows? But, and she goes, oh, don't worry about it. There's just 17 layers. Don't worry, it'll pass. And so I kept getting IMT, and I kept doing her work, and miraculously it just went away. And it didn't recur until, 4 years later, after I had unwittingly protected myself by breastfeeding during that time. Like, breastfeeding is actually quite protective in terms of.
So what is IMT?
Integrative manual therapy is a radically effective and beautiful form of body work developed by Sharon Giammatteo and carried on to some extent now by her daughter, Ayelet McConnell, and her ex-husband, Tom Giammatteo. And they both have practices in Connecticut, and there used to be a center in Connecticut, and I used to go get, there's still practitioners that I go to, but it's actually a form of physical therapy. But like I said, they're using what I would describe as quantum technologies. For instance, they use a lot of different bodywork, hands-on techniques, but one of them is resistance therapy. So you literally hold an image of what you're trying to mitigate in the body in your mind as you manipulate the tissues in a very subtle way, like just tapping them. And that basically mitigates them. I mean, it goes away. I mean, they didn't get IMT okayed as a pathway to a PT license by explaining what they were doing. They just got it okayed by showing results. So that wasn't. I would describe it differently now. I would say that the field is an intelligent one. We are interacting with it and communicating with it all the time through our attention and our intention. And so when you hold an image in your mind of what it is, you're essentially contacting the being of the thing. You are identifying in space-time where this thing, this signature, this energetic signature. And like all energetic, it's like this ancient mystery about the name. It's like if you just match the vibration of the thing essentially by naming it, you start to co-resonate. If there's trauma still lodged in there, if you co-resonate with what's there, it will finish processing through and be liberated from the body. It's not rocket science.
Not rocket science, but paradigm shifting. I mean, you think of all the people
absolutely
out there
shifting.
Suffering,
yes.
Especially in this Western model, not to say that none of it works, but you're talking about putting healing in the hands of the human being with the issue. So for example,
allopathy works for the same reason. When allopathy works, it works because it's created the right resonance. It's what it's kind of what that person needs, or it's the resonance that their field needs to hear, needs to be reflected back to them. And then you're getting out of, you take a pill, you take a sugar pill or, a pharmaceutical drug. If it works, it's creating the right resonance and allowing it to finish metabolizing and just disappear from the tissues. The same as wavelengths coming together, and they just cancel each other out. It just disappears.
So for example, I have a son-in-law who has migraines, and they're not cluster migraines, but a couple times a month he gets migraines. So if someone came to you and said, I have these migraines, in the way that you just spoke about this, so they would bring their attention to where the migraine is in the head, No.
No.
Okay. So I would love
No.
you to say yes.
Yeah. The body is intelligent. So it is working all the time to heal you. But each person is different. And another outside person can't necessarily know especially from a Western paradigm, like, okay, you have a headache, but you don't know what caused that. You don't know. There's myriad factors involved in this is like one of the great difficulties of translating this into a Western mindset, because in the Western mind, we're so sure that migraine is a thing that can be met in a certain way. Actually, what you're meeting is the person's body. So where's the person's body working right now? And you go and augment that. You go and pay attention there, whatever that is. Maybe they have a headache, but when you check in with where their body's working right now, you notice it's working on the knee. So you have to go to the knee and pay attention there and let the healing unfold according to the body's wisdom. Otherwise, you're likely to crash the system, as often happens in Western medicine. That goes, they give you a pill for something because they think, oh, well, I should fix the headache if the person is coming in for a headache. That's somewhat obvious, right? But what if there's a whole cascade of other things that need to happen before the body has enough resource to solve whatever the problem is? So it can be a step-by-step, poco a poco process, but eventually, if you follow the body's wisdom to get there, then you will have durable and safe, results that clean up 50 other things and not just the headaches, right?
Amazing.
You're not shuffling symptoms. Yeah.
Right.
So you do have to respect the body and follow the body's own pathway to get rid of the headaches. And it could be, there's a tear in the dura, and if you can just pay attention to that, it'll heal up, and no problem, the headaches will go away. But sometimes it's, your liver is occluded because of the food that you're eating, and that's shifting your hormonal balance and causing, certain energetics that give you a headache, right? There's so many etiologies. And everybody is so different. Everybody has different strategies. So you have to be with, the person where they are. Okay.
So, for example, this scenario that you're talking about now, there might be other things. Are you intuiting that? Are there tests that this person is having? Or are you kind of intuiting it, or are they intuiting these things?
Well, I teach people to do this for themselves, and using intuition very often. Intuitive, self-knowledge of the body is, in my opinion, so radically endowed that we do it all the time. I mean, how many experiences have you had going to the doctor and telling him, look, here's what I think happened. And they say, oh, no, that can't be. It must be something else, right?
Right.
Usually those people, when they come to me, I say, oh, this and this and this must have happened. And they're like, that's what I thought. Because I'm not coming at it with a preconception about what it might be. I'm just listening to what the body is telling me. And yes, that's intuitive. But let me tell you a story about intuition that blew my mind when I realized it. So one of my first integrative manual therapy classes was for a class in something they call physical functional medicine. And they give you a little gingerbread outline of a person, and they say, okay, well, here's the motility. Here's what a Lyme disease feels like. Here's what bacteria feels like. I want you to go to this person on the table, and everybody just run your hands over the person and just shade in where you think you feel this Lyme motility, or where you think that you feel this bacterial motility. So everybody does this thing. And when they compare papers, everybody gets the same paper, even if it's the first class you've ever taken.
Wow.
80%, everybody's all on the same page. So this is not, this is really radically hardwired. We co-resonate with each other. We feel each other, we intuit each other. These are not skills that we are taught in school. And as a result of that, they have largely been suppressed in most people. But all you have to do is point to that ability and ensure people that, as a matter of fact, it's not their imagination. They actually are feeling these things. Then they come on board in a very short period of time.
So when you look out now, just kind of in what's going on, you mentioned the Lyme. We've had COVID. We have massive amounts of new cancers showing up. What are your thoughts on that? And what is happening kind of in the field to have so much illness?
Well, I mean, we've been suffering under a paradigm of medicine that tells us we can't heal ourselves, for one thing. So when we neglect our bodies, when we are not inhabiting them, when we're stuffing down everything your body's trying to tell you with pills and TV and too much food or whatever, then of course we have an epidemic of chronic disease, and of course acute disease gets worse because we have no capacity, right? We haven't been with ourselves the whole time. We haven't been cleaning up as we go along. One of the kind of larger lenses that I use to look at this stuff is as a unique moment in time in an evolutionary, movement. Like we're always growing and expanding and evolving, and we seem to have hit a crisis point where it's kind of like ride or die time, like when we all healing is initiatory, by which I mean whenever we come across what we think of as illness, it's always an opportunity to grow and change and come into better alignment with our environment. And we do so by jettisoning what doesn't work and adapting new ways that amount essentially to growth, right? Like we get rid of what doesn't serve us anymore, and we grow into bigger and greater capacities. So we're definitely there right now. I mean, the people that are doing okay right now have figured out how to be in flow with change, have figured out how to incorporate information that may be challenging at a greater rate than maybe they were before, right? Like,
well, what you were just hinting on too, which
there's a lot moving in the field.
Yes, is this idea that how do you view the universe? In some ways, because that's a pretty profound statement for people that don't necessarily align that, right? That everything, even cancer, even Lyme disease, is an initiatory process, that all of life is working in our favor, as dark as it may seem, for our evolutionary growth back to maybe our sovereign wholeness. That's radically different than what it feels like when someone who doesn't have that thinking comes across like cancer, to view it as an opportunity to come back into their own bodies. An initiatory process.
We live in a culture that assures us that we never have to feel, we should never have to feel bad. And if we do, it's a major problem that we need to get rid of immediately. Instead of asking us to be curious and asking us to hold big space for ourselves and love ourselves as we go through difficult processes. I mean, imagine what the world would be like if, people got sick and our community came around and just loved on that person and held space for them. Like, we know you can get through this one way or another. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. And if it is your time to pass now, then we're going to be there with you, holding your hand, as opposed to...
we're so far from it, it's hard to even imagine,
Yeah. But if you get through this, you will have gifts to bring back to your community that you didn't have before. You will have learned something. Yeah. You'll have learned something about how to be, to bring something back to your community that's important, or how to be in better alignment with with the world so that you can be in better flow. Like whatever the gift is, we don't know either. But we
Right.
know that there's a gift there for you. We know that you'll grow.
Amazing.
I mean, this is the same thing
It's
as
true. Like, it's like the heroic journey. You don't know
Yeah.
what it's going to be. You don't know what that dense forest that is the unknown and the darkness, what it's going to be. But ultimately, if you can go through it, not resist it, in this place of accepting what the gifts are going to be at the end, sometimes hard when you're in the middle of it, for sure.
Well, and it's not actually, I mean, if it's a true initiatory process, you don't know that you're going to get through it. And you don't know that there's going to be gifts on the other side.
No.
You have to come up to the door where you're just terrified. I'm going to start crying. But you have to come up to the door where you realize you might have to leave your 3-year-old boy that you've been, desperate to mother. It's
So
not
true.
easy.
No. And we hear like the term like dark night of the soul. It gets thrown around as like a meme, but that's what you're talking about right there. The place in which you have no idea where life will land.
Yeah,
And
we don't know. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, and you can't shy away from that. So it's like here I am out there selling this kind of medicine that is really terrifying to a lot of people, and my heart goes out to them on the one hand. On the other hand, like it's also just the truth. It's also just the truth. Like we die, and
we don't like to talk about
we don't
that.
serve ourselves or our community by pretending that that's not true and pretending like these things aren't scary. But we are courageous too. We can be courageous, and we can grow in wisdom when we do face these things.
Do you think through the cancer process there was kind of that death, dying before you die moment?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually look back on that time with almost longing. So there I was, okay, God, I'm just going to go with it. Like whatever you want, whatever it is, Gaia, you just let me know. I'll be waiting here. And it was like I suddenly got on this slide, and I was sliding down, and it was so delicious to just think that I could just put all my burdens down. I was just going to die, and it was going to be easy. And I wanted to stay, but I didn't know. So, and it was like the most seductive, beautiful, wonderful. I'm literally looking, not anytime soon.
Yeah. Yes.
But I am actually very much looking forward to
that next journey
that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Profound. Do you believe in the work that you're doing? We talk about the connection between kind of the emotional body and physical body. Do you find that when you are moving certain things, people are also going through emotional catharsis?
Yeah. So the method that I teach and use is to go to a spot in the body and then help them transmute whatever is there. So whatever is there can include, trauma in the physical body, trauma in the emotional body, trauma in the mental body, trauma, miasmatic trauma, energetic interference, past life, and not even just that. Like sometimes it's just like this person has come up with this amazing strategy for dealing with their particular life, what life has thrown them particularly. And so then you have to be open to whatever that is so that you can see and transmute it with them. I mean, so sometimes sometimes you'll find a spot in the body that when you go into it, a big emotion will come up, or a memory, or, sometimes it'll be literally just a physical body trauma. Like, that's where I banged my elbow, when I fell on my bike, or, you can transmute trauma at any level, any layer. That's where the art comes in. That's actually one of the most beautiful aspects of medicine in this mode, is that there's such an artistry to it. I mean, I think that's probably always true, but we don't recognize it. But when you're just working with energetics, you're face to face with how artistic, how open you need to be in an artistic sense to what's there.
What do you think about Mother Earth's abundance of medicines that are here that are earth medicines, spices, herbs? Do you have practices with these?
I sort of do. I have dabbled in almost all of them, and I respect them too much to use them regularly. But there are a couple of medicines that are really I respect deeply as co-collaborators on this path. One is Combo, which is a beautiful medicine. I've only used a couple times, but I got so much out of it. And then Iboga, which is kind of a radical and intense teacher, but I just also think is a beautiful, profound medicine. I know everybody has the worst experiences, but I literally spent the entire time giggling and and wishing I could stand up to dance.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. How about that?
It was really fun. I mean, I embarked on my Iboga journey. They said, oh, it's going to take an hour for it to take effect. And I'm so sensitive. Literally 4 minutes later, I start having visuals, and the first thing I saw, because I could feel it go, I'm so body aware at this point too. So I took it into my body and I felt it going through my body. And then I felt it go up my eye, like my nerve, my optic nerve. I felt it hit my eyeballs. And when it did, I saw this ritual door that the shaman had used or had put in the space, split open, and these pygmies came through. And I realized that the pygmies are there jumping through time-space into these ceremonies all the time. I mean, it's just like amazing.
It's
so
amazing.
Now even, I learned after that, I didn't know that pygmies were associated with Iboga at the time, but turns out that even people that do ibogaine in like a clinic in Milwaukee will see the pygmies jumping into their experience.
Wow. What would you say was your greatest lesson from cancer, and what was your greatest lesson from Iboga and greatest lesson from Combo?
My greatest lesson from cancer was about surrender. In a nutshell, my greatest lesson from Combo was about the quantum nature of medicine. And my greatest lesson from Iboga was to dance. How important dance is for healing.
Wow. And have you kept these with you? Like, do you dance and incorporate that into your life?
Oh, yeah. So I did Iboga. Yeah. So I did that one. It wasn't even a very big, long trip. It was just in terms of what's possible with Iboga, it was kind of a small experience. But I guess that was right before the pandemic or right at the beginning of the pandemic. The main message was just dance, Stella. It's human. Humans dance. You can't be human without dancing. And so I had been a little bit of a ballet prodigy when I was young, and I quit really young too. And after I was sort of devastated that I had chosen to do that. My whole life I was devastated that I had not chosen to dance in this lifetime. And then after Iboga, I was like, screw it. I'm dancing. I'm going to do ballet in my living room. So I started taking ballet classes from YouTube.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
How do you teach your son, or do you, about being in his body and noticing what comes up? Is that something you work with at the age that he is at?
Well, he's 10 now. So I started really young with him because I noticed in him very young that he had a tendency to wall off. And so I kept my hands on him. I just massaged him pretty much every night and just rubbed his back, or I'd massage his legs, or I'd hold his hand, or, as he said, I just really tried to transmit touch, like here's your body. It's good to touch, it's good to be touched. And then as he got older, I just made a really concerted effort to get him on my table as often as possible. And he grew to love it. I mean, he loves to go get treatment. He loves it when I do treatments on him. So I teach these classes online, and he's apparently been listening. This is the joy of homeschooling, right? Because your kid gets to soak up these things. So he recently was saying, he asked me, Mom, how do you do healing? I've been trying to heal this part of myself, and it's not working, or I'm doing what you say, like I'm putting my hands there and I'm sitting behind myself, but it's not working. I said, well, maybe you're not. Maybe you're where you think you should be because it hurts, but maybe your body's actually working someplace else. Can you just check in and, using your internal sense or using your felt sense, can you just check where's your body working right now? And he said, oh, well, actually it's working, in my lymph, like behind it's kind of working on my neck, he said. And I said, okay, well, if you hold your attention there and sit back, what happens? And he goes, oh, it's working now. And so at that point, I was like, okay, my work is done.
Right?
Like
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's tweaks, along the way. And if he's interested, I'll certainly teach him more. But as long as he has a felt sense, like, first of all, what that tells me is he has an energetic awareness, which I did not have at that age. So that was like news to me at 25 when I figured that out. And, as long as he's aware that he's an energetic being, as long as he's aware that his perceptions at that level are valid and useful, and he knows how to use them, I'm okay with whatever he does with it, beyond.
Could you maybe just do, like, to the audience, bring them into a place of awareness into their body, and kind of prompt them through something like that?
Well, what I would say is that I could do that with you.
Okay.
And that what happens when I do it with you is that the field changes, and whoever's listening will be able to attune to what they're feeling in the field. So, and we can just intend to hold that big of a space. So ask anybody listening to just follow along and do as I do it, as I'm doing it, or feel whatever you're feeling in your body. You can also put your hands wherever you feel like it, but there is a coherent field opening up here that we can all tap into together. So if I start from the top of your head and I just scan down, I might go to the back of your, like, kind of a post-nasally drip kind of feeling, maybe back there a little bit. I would say kind of back of the throat, right behind. It's almost like there's a patch back there, a little whitish. Actually, I wonder if it's related to COVID. So this will be a really good opportunity for anybody that has danced with COVID or... So we're just going to go to the back area, and using kind of an intuitive visual sense, I'm just seeing maybe almost a squarish patch of white. And if I name it that, does it engage with me? Does it want to start processing? We always use processing as the fail-safe. If it starts processing, we just trust that the body's working something out and we let it go. We don't have to make it be more or less than that. We're trying to get physical results in the body. So that's always what we're looking for. Does it processing? Processing will feel like heat or little tingles. Sometimes I talk about them being little elves in there. Cold. The belly can start gurgling. You might start sighing or burping. Those are all signs that a memory might arise. Those are all signs that the body is processing something out of the physical tissues, and that's what we're going for here. So just notice as we pay attention to that spot, and then we sit behind ourselves. Or for people that are energetic, if I say sit behind yourself, they almost get it immediately. And I'm not talking an inch or 2 or 3 behind yourself. I'm saying more 1/4 of an inch, or maybe 1/3 of an inch in that sweet spot where there's still this feeling of kind of magnetic engagement.
Mm-hmm.
The other way to create the sense or the sit behind yourself is to say, if I say, activate your peripheral vision, and I don't mean that with your eyeballs, but just activate your peripheral vision. You'll find, if I say that, you'll find that you almost naturally just start, your energetic body pulls back and you start to kind of pay attention to the edges. And maybe you can feel, I don't know, it's subtle sometimes, but can you feel anything happening?
Well, I could definitely feel what you were talking about, sitting behind yourself. Actually, funny, I feel something right here, right now, kind of like right in the midline, just below the heart. And I was feeling kind of in the back of my throat. I was definitely feeling like some tingling there.
So I'm still feeling tingling there for you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes processing shows up in funny ways. Like people,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be paying attention to their pharynx, and they'll say, why is my foot tingling? So it's not linear here all the time. As long as we're getting some response from the body, I feel comfortable with that. And sometimes it helps to just reaffirm that, yep, we're paying attention to that spot and staying out of the way. The other way to talk about get out of the way is, as you mentioned before, what Orland Bishop told me was sitting in the place of the ancestors. So I had the great privilege of speaking with him at one point, and I asked him, like, how does healing work? He's a master. And we talked about paying attention to something and getting out of the way. And he said, yep, in my culture, we call that sitting in the place of the ancestors, where when we pull our energetic body back just a little bit, the wisdom of the ancestors can come through. So there's lots of ways to teach it. Ultimately, we're just looking for results happening in the body. So in your case, I'm feeling that spot in your pharynx move. So I feel it tingling in my fingers. I don't know what you might be feeling there, but it also feels like the whole sinus, like the sinuses might be opening up a little bit there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling something in the sinuses, and then even like here, like something
Yeah,
in
because
the jaw.
what it feels like is as that spot releases, everything around it gets to release too.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just continuing to pay attention with the left side of our brain and then activating the right side by getting into allow. And so this is why I talk about this as a coherent field. Because I think...
So can you feel resistance from me, or do you feel allowance? Can you tell?
Yeah, I can usually tell, and I don't feel... Resistance actually often comes in as the brain trying to figure it out, right? So that feels like it's processed through that spot. Now there's more that's maybe opening up in the sinuses to process. And as I continue to notice that and pay attention and stay behind myself, your body will just keep going. So now it feels like up through the sinuses, like there's a little layer of inflammation. And maybe that first layer of epithelial tissue up in there. And so that looks like a hot red line in your sinuses. And I'm just paying attention to that and getting out of the way. Now,
I mean, I definitely feel a lot of energy in the spaces that you're talking about.
yeah. Yeah. So, with attention, your body kind of gets into coherent agreements and just goes to work there. So there we go. So that's just a little taste.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Amazing. It's so interesting to witness your intuitive nature in the body,
Yep.
because mine with my clients is similar, but it's not the physical body. It's more I'm watching the emotional body at all times.
Yep.
And sometimes someone will come and say, I'm feeling something in my sinuses today. And I'll say, well, let's just go there then. Let's maybe press on it and see what's there. And inevitably there's a memory or and it's interesting. I'm noticing that you have this intuitive way of being really with the tissues of the body. And I'm working with some other layer that's more the emotional body. So I'm looking forward to learning from you. I would love to learn this because, again, I have clients coming to me, and inevitably the emotions and the body are always connected. There's something connected with the physical when there's emotional stuff.
I'm not going to remember his name, but there is a doctor and a researcher who was talking about the mechanism by which memory gets trapped in the tissue, in the cell walls, literally.
Yeah.
So the body as a doorway into whatever, like the body is literally where it gets trapped. Yeah. So in my sensing, like a lot of people will come to me and I'll say, oh, what about this emotional issue? And they'll say, well, I've been working on that for years. Why are you still finding it there? And my perspective is because we haven't actually gotten it out of the tissues.
Body. So the same. I had a client call this morning. It was a consult call with a man. I said, would you be comfortable just going in and seeing what's there? And all of a sudden, tears and a memory. He said, I've been in therapy for years. And I said, but it's talk therapy. It's like we have to get into the deep body memory. And it's always mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And how quick it can be.
Yeah. 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 And it's really literally like we have been denigrating the body for so long now. We've been saying like, oh, it's dirty. Oh, it's feminine. Oh, it's yin, oh, it's untouchable. And yet that, and so to some extent, this is the ground we're reclaiming as feminists even.
Totally.
How do we get back into, like, how do we respect and honor and heal the physical body?
It's amazing because we've been so disembodied in our culture.
That's right.
And the ground of all of this healing is in the body.
That's right. And when we heal all those little tiny traumas in the body, then we can go back and reclaim them. We become embodied again.
Yes.
On a physical level, what that equates to is we restore circulation. We restore blood flow. When like literally when there is a trauma stuck in a spot, there's not good blood flow through there. Wow. So when we metabolize the trauma out of the tissues in that spot, we get blood flow back there. And that compounds on itself. The more places we restore blood flow, the healthier we become. And the possibility for exponentially being better comes online too. So this concept of, everybody's so interested in de-aging and they're trying to find all these external things instead of like going back and just restoring circulation in the body.
Stella, it was so good to have you here. I think your message of self-healing is so profound and the work that you're doing is so beautiful. I know you're writing a new book. Can you tell me a little bit about that before we go?
Yeah. My new book is really going to be to go along with the classes that I teach. We really go over the whole thing, and I'm really just intending this next book to just be a primer for that. I also wrote a healing memoir that you can get on resonantattention.substack.com about my journey with cancer and autoimmune disease, etc., and Resonant Attention. And then my book, Star Sister, was published by North Atlantic Books in 2012. So that's a bit more in the past. And that one is more about my first marriage and the initial part of my healing journey.
Wow. Yeah. So you're taking us kind of through these initiatory processes of your life, which is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'll put in the show notes your website and all the ways that people can sign up for your course and reach you. I could
do.
talk to you for hours and hours. And thank you for this beautiful healing. I actually still feel it kind of moving through.
It'll keep moving through, yeah.
I'll report back. Thank
All
you,
right.
Stella.
Lots of love. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.